1.
Studio Classroom is
Please stand by.
Studio Classroom is on the air.
Welcome to Studio Classroom on the air. Your English will improve today as we have so many great ideas to cover. My name is Anne-Marie, and Gabe, what on earth are you doing?
What?
Did you just eat something off the floor?
Well, not off the floor. I mean, I didn't put my face down to the ground to pick up the food with my mouth.
Gabe, you know that's not what it means to eat off the floor. You picked something up off the ground and you put it into your mouth.
Yeah, after blowing on it and dusting it off, yes, I ate off the floor.
All right. Well, how do you feel about that, friends? Today our lesson is called The 5-Second Rule for Food. So there's a rule out there that it's okay to eat food that has dropped to the ground if it wasn't there for too long.
And I think it's a pretty good rule, though 5 seconds is really too short. I always heard that it was the 10-second rule. At any rate, friends, what do you think about this rule? Don't make up your mind yet. As always, today is a great day to learn something new.
Let's do that together.
The 5-second rule for food. If you pick it up quickly, is it still safe to eat? Oh no! Your piece of cake fell on the floor. You pick it up right away, but should you eat it? The 5-second rule says you may if you pick it up fast enough. It assumes germs don't get onto food in such a short time. Science, however, tells us germs need less than a second to get onto dropped food. So, eating dropped food isn't risk-free. These questions can help you decide whether or not to eat food you just dropped on the floor.
Hi everyone, welcome to Language Lab. I'm Jack. 我们来看第一个字 assume。Assume 是动词，意思是假设或是想当然的认为，只在毫无依据之下做出的假设或是猜测。譬如说 I assume you got the top score on the test. You always do. 我猜你这次小考应该考满分吧？你每次都是。或者 The entire office assumed that Brad would be taken over when James left, but they were wrong. 当 James 离职时，全办公室的人都以为 Brad 会接他的工作，但是大家都错了。再来看一个例句 Kay's family assumed that she was going to become a doctor, so they were shocked when she became an artist. Kay 的家人想当然而的以为她会当医生，所以当她成为一位艺术家时，他们都很震惊。另一个长得很像的字是 presume。是基于证据推算出来的假设，意思不一样，要小心分清楚。OK， 我们再来看 whether or not 的用法。Whether or not 的意思是是否或要不要怎么样，后面要带出一个句子。譬如 Jamie couldn't decide whether or not she wanted to go to the movies with her friends. Jamie 无法决定要不要跟朋友去看电影。或者Whether or not we admit it to ourselves, we all wish everyone would like us. 无论我们承不承认，我们都希望每个人会喜欢我们。另外也可以分开来使用 ，whether 后面加上句子，最后句尾再接 or not。譬如说 ，Braxton was unsure whether his wife would go with him to Japan or not. Braxton 不确定他的妻子是否会跟他一起去日本。All right, back to you, teachers.
Thank you very much, Jack. Well, our lesson is the 5-second rule for food. If you pick it up quickly, Is it still safe to eat? That's what a lot of people believe.
Well, you certainly believe that. Earlier you picked some food right off the floor and you didn't have any problem eating it at all.
You're right, Anne-Marie. I am included in that group of a lot of people. I believe, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, it's okay.
Would you eat off of any floor?
Okay, if the floor is obviously really dirty and nasty and I see a cockroach walking across, I'm not going to pick up food off of that floor and eat it, maybe.
We have a phrase in English, actually. The phrase is, the floor is clean enough to eat off of. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, I have. You're right about that. If the floor is so clean, you could eat off the floor. But I don't think that's why we usually use that phrase, right, Anne-Marie?
No, it's just to say that something is so clean, if you wanted to, you could eat off of it, not that you should.
So who might use that phrase? Oh, the floor is so clean you could eat off of it. Who might say it?
I've heard moms say it to their kids before.
All right.
Time to clean your room. I want this floor clean enough to eat off of.
Okay, of course, that does not mean the mom is going to eat off the floor herself, but the floor should be really clean. So we read here, oh no, your piece of cake fell on the floor. You pick it up right away, but should you eat it?
It's a great question. That's one we are going to try to answer today.
Hey, before we continue, Anne-Marie, here's a little quiz about a piece of cake, because that's actually an idiom.
It is.
What does that idiom mean? If something is a piece of cake, it is...
I bet you know this one, students. It means it's easy, right? Piece of cake means something is easy to do.
Oh, that was just such a piece of cake. Everybody knew what that idiom meant. Well, friends, we continue here. The 5-second rule says you may pick it up if you pick it up fast enough. It assumes germs don't get onto food in such a short time.
Science, however, tells us germs need less than a second to get onto dropped food.
Ooh.
So I guess you could say that germs get onto dropped food in a split second. What do you think?
That is a great phrase. A split second. That means it happens really fast in the fraction of a second. Just like this chameleon, if you've seen a lizard like this eating something with its tongue, it flicks its tongue out so fast it happens in a split second.
We use this phrase to describe something that happens so fast you have absolutely no time to react. For example, Rachel turned to see who had grabbed her purse, but the thief was gone in a split second. He was gone before she even had time to react.
That's right. Now, a split second, of course, is a fraction of a second. There's a related term, a nanosecond. That's actually 1/billionth of a second. It's a very precise amount of time, a really small amount of time. But we continue here. So eating dropped food isn't risk-free. It's not free of risk. That means there might be some risks involved.
So you could say by eating food off the floor, you are taking a risk. So when you eat that food, you have to decide, is that risk worth taking or not?
Exactly, because it's not risk-free. Hey, what are some other ways we use the word free like this? If it's not risk-free, there's no risk. Maybe something is caffeine-free?
It means the absence of, right? I think sometimes we use that word in the way to say, oh, this thing doesn't have that in it. So what we're talking about here, dropped food, it is not absent of risk.
Exactly, so there might be a risk there. Well, friends, we continue here. These questions can help you decide whether or not to eat food you just dropped on the floor. Before we get to those questions, though, I think it's time for us to see what we can learn about the word assume in today's Info Cloud.
Hello friends, welcome to InfoCloud. Today, we have a very interesting topic to share with all of you.
Yes, we do. Now, Rex, did you know that in the past, most Japanese emperors reigned until they passed away? But the former emperor, Emperor Akihito, abdicated his throne in 2019, and his eldest son took the throne.
Yes, the emperor's abdication in favor of his son was highly unusual. His son, Prince Naruhito, assumed the mantle and became the 126th emperor of Japan?
Well, let's talk more about that term you just used, assume the mantle. Assume the mantle or take on the mantle means to accept or take up an important job or responsibility.
This term comes from the old days where a king or important official might wear a mantle or robe to show his position. When the new king took office, he would wear a mantle, and the mantle would be a distinguishing mark that he was the king now.
We use this term most often in talking about leadership, whether it is a person, a company, or country taking on a new leadership role.
Good point. For example, we can say, in the past 10 years, Europe has assumed the mantle on environmental issues.
Yes. So next time you talk about transitions in leadership, you can use assume the mantle to describe the incoming leader on a new role.
我们都知道，当一个领导人不是很容易的事情。如果有人担负起领导人的责任，你可以说他是 assume the mantle 或 take on the mantle。mantle 是披风，但是在这里 mantle 指的是国王的披风，也就是黄袍的意思。而 assume 和 take on 都有担负起来的含义。assume the mantle 或 take on the mantle 就是承担领导的重责大任。Europe has always assumed the mantle on environmental issues. 欧洲在环保议题上一直扮演着领导的角色。Assume the mantle 可以用来形容一个人、公司或是国家在某个领域中担负起领导的责任。这就是今天的 InfoCloud， 我们下次再见。
Studio Classroom is on the air.
Oh, I'm really not feeling so great.
Yeah, well, I wonder why we watched you eat food directly off the floor.
It was only on the ground for a split second. Okay, maybe a few seconds.
Eating dropped food isn't exactly risk-free, Gabe. You shouldn't assume germs don't get onto your food if you pick it up off the ground right away. Where are you going?
To somewhere important. Let's get right back into the second reading for the day. The 5-second rule for food. 1. Where did it fall? Hard, smooth surfaces such as tile floors are worse than carpet. Busy public places are dirtier than low traffic places. 2. Is it moist? Watermelon collects germs more easily than cookies, which are dry. 3. How long was it there? A short time is better than a long time. 4. Are you especially vulnerable? There is a higher risk that young children, older adults, and pregnant women can get sick from germs. 5. How yummy is it? Is it a delicious piece of cake or just the dry corner of a sandwich?
"接下来我们来看 smooth 这个形容词，意思是光滑平滑的。譬如 After putting lotion on her face, Maria's skin felt smooth. Maria 在脸上擦乳液后，感觉皮肤很光滑。或者 Bethany ran her hand over the smooth silk fabric. Bethany 用手快速划过这匹光滑的丝绸布料。Smooth 也有平坦的意思。The path was not very smooth, so the children had a hard time walking up the hill. 这条小路不是很平坦，孩子们走上坡时很辛苦。 最后来看 moist 这个形容词，意思是湿润的、潮湿的。譬如 These cookies are so moist and yummy。这些饼干很松软、很可口。或者 I need a moist washcloth to wash the dirt off Bobby's face。我需要一条湿毛巾来擦掉 Bobby 脸上的土。再看一个例句 Make sure the ground is moist before you plant your seeds。播种前要先确认土地是湿润的。Okay, let's get back to our teachers.
Thank you very much, Jack. Okay, let's get into our questions for you to consider before you decide if you should eat something off the floor. Number 1, where did it fall? Hard, smooth surfaces such as tile floors are worse than carpet. I was surprised by this fact for some reason.
Really?
Just because it's easier to clean hard, smooth surfaces than it is to clean a carpet.
Well,
Right?
really? I guess that's true. I guess when I think of carpet, I do think of something that's dirtier in general. Carpets are harder to clean.
Yeah, but our lesson says that hard, smooth floors are actually worse
Wow.
than carpet. You know, I think the factor of how often you clean that thing also could be something to consider, right?
I wonder if it's because dirt doesn't always stay on the surface of carpet. Because dirt could maybe fall through to the bottom, like the base of the carpet. So maybe not all of the dirt stays on the surface.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Well, we read something here. Busy public places are dirtier than low traffic places. This is talking about a completely different situation than the floor versus carpet situation. Here we're talking about low traffic. Now, when I see the word traffic, I usually think of cars on a road or freeway and people honking their horns. But you could have a lot of traffic just like in this picture. It's just a lot of people walking through a place.
That would be called foot traffic. Foot traffic refers to the amount of people that walk in a certain area. Right, it doesn't always have to do with transportation or traffic in regards to cars or vehicles.
Exactly. So low traffic places are places that don't have a lot of people walking through very frequently. Obviously, the opposite would be high traffic places. Did you used to work in a place that had a lot of, maybe some areas would have high traffic, some would have low traffic?
Yeah, I did. I actually used to work retail for a long time before I was an English teacher. That means that I worked in a department store. When we would set things up to sell them, we specifically put the things we wanted to sell more of in a high traffic area. So that means we knew which parts of the store more people would walk through. We called those high traffic areas. Now, things that we knew were not seasonal or wouldn't sell as well, we would put in low traffic areas. That means that those products are not very popular, and so not as many people would be walking through to buy them. So we would separate the store in that way.
All right, separate it from high traffic areas
That's
and
right.
low traffic areas. That's a great point. Well, here's question number 2. Is it moist? So, watermelon collects germs more easily than cookies, which are dry. I don't know, man. I've had some excellent cookies that are nice and moist.
Yeah, but have you ever dropped a piece of watermelon on the ground before?
Yeah.
It's pretty disgusting.
You're right, but I wouldn't pick it up because I don't really like watermelon.
Oh, okay. Well, how about another kind of fruit? Something that's maybe juicy.
Yeah, you're right. Mango.
Mango.
Oh,
What
I
if you
love
dropped
mango.
a piece of mango on the ground?
Yeah, okay, you're right.
Can you
Annie.
imagine the hair and the dirt
You're right.
that would get stuck on that?
I don't think I would eat that.
No.
Well, here's question number 3. How long was it there? A short time, of course, is better than a long time. What about question number 4?
Are you especially vulnerable? There is a higher risk that young children, older adults, and pregnant women can get sick from germs. Well, that's an interesting word there, vulnerable. What exactly does that mean?
That's right. This means exposed to the possibility of being harmed either physically or emotionally, or it could be in need of special care.
This reminds me of baby animals, like baby birds. Baby birds, when they first hatch out of their eggs, are especially vulnerable. Or a person could be emotionally vulnerable as well.
That's right. Well, moving on to question number 5. How yummy is it? This is great. Is it a delicious piece of cake or just the dry corner of a sandwich? Now you have some questions to consider before you eat food off the floor. Right now it's time for us to enjoy today's skit.
This is one of my favorite hiking trails.
I can see why. It's flat and smooth.
Yes, it's not rocky or rough.
It's not bumpy at all. It's nice and smooth.
That's right. It's easy to walk on. Some trails are uneven. It's easy to stumble and fall. But not this trail. It's even and smooth.
We can hike here easily.
Right. No bumps, no holes.
Yes, this is a great hiking path.
It sure is. Do you know what I like best about this trail?
What? What do you like best?
It's smooth. And because it's smooth, I can see the path easily.
Oh, right.
So it's really easy to see the snakes on the trail.
Snakes?
Oh, yeah. This area has lots of snakes.
Oh, no.
Watch where you step. And don't hide behind me. Like, you shouldn't be afraid of snakes. What are you?
What a smooth skit. Okay, so guys, let's talk about this. Do you live by the 5-second rule, or are you a germaphobe? That's not a word that we use every day. Jack, is there a kind of a translation for the word germaphobe? Someone who's really scared of germs?
细菌恐慌症吗？
Oh, someone who's like afraid of getting dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so what about you guys? Do you live by the 5-second rule, or are you the opposite extreme? Jack, earlier this month you kind of talked about how your parents raised you to be very clean and not touch dirt and things like that.
Yeah.
So are you personally a germaphobe?
No.
No?
自从我去了美国之后，习惯那边的生活方式之后，我就比较不会那么的 picky about
All the germs.
all the germs.
What do you think your limit is?
My
with
limit?
germs?
只要看起来不脏，闻起来不臭，都是 OK 的。
Yes, that's me too. What about you, Anne-Marie?
Well, I think as far as eating food off the floor, it depends on where I am. If I am in a restaurant or in a public place, there is no way I'm eating that food off the floor.
Right, of course.
If I'm in my home maybe and I know like, oh, I just cleaned it, that's a different story. I will say I've been a little bit more of a germaphobe after having my daughter, but definitely not to the same extent as other people.
Yeah, it's true. When you have kids, all of a sudden you're concerned about other people as well. And I remember, especially kind of in the middle of last year, 2020, when I would come home and the first thing my wife would do is take a spray bottle of 75% alcohol and just spray me all over to make sure that I wasn't bringing germs
sense.
into the home.
Yeah, my wife always says, "Hey, take off your shoes."
Exactly, because our youngest will still go to eat the shoes sometimes or try to lick them. Okay, well, friends, what about you? What is your limit? Are you a germaphobe, or do you live by the 5 or 10 or 15-second rule? Friends, we have another lesson for you next time right here on
Studio Classroom.
Times, a friend endures at all times. A good friend lasts a lifetime. I am so proud to have you in my life. A good friend lasts a lifetime.